everyone. Happy Monday. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the PHNX Coyotes Podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah here with Craig and Petey as normal, and today we are very excited to welcome in a man with so many titles. I couldn't even decide on one. Co-host of the 32 Thoughts podcast, the Jeff Marek Show. Sportsnet NHL insider Jeff Marek, thank you so much for joining the show.
And then at the end of the night, Leah, they hand me a broom and I sweep up on my way out. First of all, Petey, great Team North America jersey back there, man.
Thank you.
That was I went and saw all those games. I mean, they're all in Toronto, and that is it's funny too. I remember having a conversation with John Cooper, head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning. I said, "What's the best team you ever coached?" And he said, "It's a team that didn't do anything. It's Team North America." And in about 20 years, you look back on that team and say, "That guy's in the Hall of Fame. That guy's in the Hall of Fame. That guy's in the Hall of Fame. That guy's in the Hall of Fame." That may be the team that did the least, that had the most effect on the NHL, maybe even in league history. And it wasn't even part of the league.
Surprisingly enough, that's my claim to fame too. I was the video coach for that team. So I was the video coach here in Arizona for a long time and lost a lot of games. Then I got to go and be a part of that team. And it is, when you look at that list of names from McDavid to Matthews and on, it's absolutely incredible. It's too bad.
So what was your reaction when McKinnon pulled that deke on Henrik Lundqvist? I remember
in the Swedish game. That Swedish game, that first 5 minutes of the Swedish game was the fastest hockey I have ever seen. That was the Matthews on his knees to McDavid pass. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was a defenseman on that team and said that 5 minutes, we weren't ready. They were just that much faster than us. And it's unfortunate that that game went to overtime and you didn't get the Crosby-McDavid matchup on a Saturday night in Toronto. It was that close.
I'll tell you what, I know we're Craig, Leah, I apologize. We're already detouring the whole conversation. You know, I legitimately wonder about this as a Canadian. I don't know what the crowd would have done with that at Scotiabank.
With McDavid, Crosby?
Well, I don't know. Will they cheer Team North America or cheer Team Canada? Because that Team North America, grabbed the attention of the entire hockey world. It was full of possibility because it was like the idea that this is what hockey's going to look like in the next 5 years. And these are kids that are like, system, who cares about system? We're here to play hockey. This is pond. This is a lot of fun. And everybody fell in love with Team North America. It was fantastic, but not cheering for that logo and that flag. Like, don't you think that would have been a clash? Like, I don't know, like, Leah, I'm going to go to my fellow Torontonian here. Who would you have cheered for at that moment? Team North America or Team Canada?
Oh, that's tough.
So awful. I would say Team North America.
Well, I was going to say, lucky for me, I'm a dual citizen. So Team North America actually encompasses my fandom pretty well.
All right. Speaking of teams that didn't win enough games, how's that for a transition, Jeff? Let's talk about the Calgary situation. How do you parse this? First of all, we just lost
Jeff, and we'll get him back here in a second.
Must have insulted him with that question.
That was it.
Also have Cox
Thanks for Jeff for joining the show today and talking about the Western Conference playoffs.
You guys just dropped out. Sorry, I just dropped out. I don't know.
All good.
Canadian
I
internet.
Insulted you. Wow. Okay.
Blame Canadian internet.
Exactly.
You know what? I just wanted to talk to Petey and Leah. That's it. You started blabbing on, Craig, and I peace out. Check me out on Facebook. I'm out of here.
You're in stride for the show now. Thank you. Thoughts on the Calgary situation? We hear mutual parting. A lot of times it's not a mutual parting. How do you parse the situation with Brad Treliving, who, of course, was the assistant general manager here for a long time, very well known to Coyotes fans?
Remember when we used to call divorces conscious uncouplings? For a hot minute, that was like the hot thing. Oh, we're not getting divorced. This is a conscious uncoupling of the two of us. And it's very, this was not a conscious uncoupling. I think this was, Brad Treliving was offered a contract by Flames ownership at the beginning of the year, was unprepared to sign it at that point. They let the season play on. And it seemed as if, Brad Treliving, I don't think was going to coexist with Daryl Sutter. I don't know how much, I'm not there. I don't know exactly how much friction there was, but it became, pretty obvious that wasn't going to be a situation that worked out for Brad Treliving. It's a challenging ownership group to work under as well. So I think this was destined once Brad Treliving, had a second thought on signing the extension in the first place. So I don't know how surprised we should be. Normally, if you're offered a contract and you want to stay, there's only 32 of these jobs. You sign it right away. This wasn't the case with Treliving in Calgary. That's why I don't think a lot of people were surprised at this one. And I think for Brad Treliving, despite the fact that there are only a couple of rounds of playoff success for the Calgary Flames under his tenure, I think he's going to be in high demand. And I think right away we look at the Pittsburgh Penguins situation. He's someone that can exist whether a team is a family-run affair or whether it's corporate culture. That's kind of where Brad Treliving can swim as well. So I think the question for me now is, does Brad Treliving want any time off? Does he want to take a break? He's been at this for a long time, and it's a very high-pressure situation in Calgary, as always. Because I look at Brad and I say he'll probably be unemployed for as long as he wants to be. I think we're wondering about Pittsburgh, and depending on what happens in this opening round between the Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning, there could be another general manager position open as well.
Jeff, how do you evaluate his tenure there? Like you said, up and down. They were in the playoffs, they were out of the playoffs, and then they had this bizarre situation last summer where basically your two best players say, I don't want to play here anymore, and you've got to try and make lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah, I know that was a really tough one. Well, I look at Brad Treliving and I say that he was able to put together competitive teams, and he was able to put together, probably the best line in the NHL last year, right? With Gaudreau, Tkachuk, and Lindholm. Like that was, consistent from stem to stern, probably the best line in the entire NHL. He navigated some very, very difficult waters in the Bill Peters situation, and that was a very sensitive issue that I think Brad Treliving really handled as professionally as possible, given that we all knew where that was heading. I think that Treliving demonstrated that he's a thorough pro the way that he handled it. I think that Treliving did a really good job putting together really competitive teams. I think last year was the team that we all expected would have had a longer run. That was an outstanding team, but it just seemed as if it weren't for the Oilers being Jacob Markstrom's kryptonite, and make no mistake about it, that has always been Jacob Markstrom's kryptonite. And you can even make the argument that Jacob Markstrom has not been the same goaltender since that series. I don't want to say that the Edmonton Oilers broke Jacob Markstrom, but he hasn't been the same since. And I think that's the one thing that I look at this season with the Calgary Flames. And as much as people place on, Huberdeau's got to be better, sure he does. I look at the Flames and say, when you look at the underlying numbers, it's a better team than they show. They just got undone by some bad goaltending. And if they can fix that, then I think they spin around next season and are a better team. And this team has Brad Treliving fingerprints all over it. I think he's a really good general manager working in a very, very challenging market. Being the manager of any Canadian hockey team brings with it its own sense of drama and politics, and it takes a very specific personality. I'll just be blunt. It takes a specific type of personality, not to fly off the handle, because there's so much media, so much pressure, so much fan expectation, that I thought Treliving composed himself with a real air of professionalism. And I could tell there were at times where Treliving really wanted to blast off, but he's a thorough pro and never did.
All right, let's get to the playoffs, which kick off tonight, Jeff. Before we dive into the Western Conference, I want to ask you a couple questions. Well, Lee's going to ask one of these, but are you in favor of bringing back the play-in round? And if so, would you do it NBA style with 2 teams? Would you do it NHL bubble style with 4 more teams?
It's a great question. I go back and forth on it. Like I look at this year in the, let's just say, we'll focus on the Eastern Conference, because I'm going to make a point about the East last year. This year in the Eastern Conference, I think you could have made an argument for it, right? When teams are close enough that there's like, it's a half a puck here, it's a half a puck there, it's 2 different results in the shootout, and we have a whole different playoff situation in the opening round. Then I think you can make the case for the play-in. But last year, we knew who was going in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference by December. And there was like, what was like a 20-point game? If we had this conversation last season about the Eastern Conference where there's like a 20-point gap, how could you justify a play-in round? Like, how could you say to that team that got in that, we're having a play-in best 2 out of 3 or whatever it is, and you're out, and the team that was, you finished 20 points higher than is all of a sudden in. Last year, it was a great season for Gary Bettman, because Bettman has been against this from day one. He doesn't like the play, and he hates it, and he can forever point to last year's Eastern Conference. I mean, I like the idea, but I think it brings with it, like, I like the idea of more high-stakes hockey in general. But it brings with it the conversation about there being too long of a season. Like, at a certain point, do you not need to look at, like, okay, if you're going to add a play-in round as well, do you need to have a look at the schedule and say, okay, you know what, 82 games is a lot. And maybe like I've always said, like, whatever the NHL can do to get their games out of June, they should really look at doing. And I know full well that, considering the sports competition that exists in September, they don't have any appetite to compete with the established sports in September. So this is just kind of the way it's going to be. I wonder if some of the pushback from the NHL, and specifically the commissioner's office, is because they don't want to do anything to the schedule. They've got October to June. That's a sweet spot of the bat for them. They don't want to shrink it. They don't want to go back into September at all. But I like it because I like more high stakes. I like more high stakes hockey.
Diving into this Western playoff picture, I'm curious what you think is the most compelling storyline of the Western Conference playoff picture.
Ooh, that's a good one. The most compelling. Okay. Have you guys seen Connor McDavid's upper teeth? Because I haven't seen them this year.
Did not expect that question coming. Yeah,
I have not seen Connor McDavid's upper teeth. I see Leah's upper teeth right now. Craig, I can see your upper
teeth.
So
he doesn't smile. He's not happy?
This is the single most focused I think we've ever seen Connor McDavid. Like, I think the only time I saw him smile, it might have been a giggle when Matt Berlin came in, the e-bug that one night, and he came on and cleaned up for a minute and a half. But I'm convinced that this year Connor McDavid doesn't have upper teeth. He's just like, I'm refusing to have any emotion. I just like, he's like on this like robotic pace. Like, we look at him this year, like the season he just put in front of us is spectacular. Like, this is the player possessed. This is the definition of the guy that's saying, get on my back. We're gonna win the Stanley Cup. And I think the presence of Mattias Ekholm, we'll see what happens with the net minding here, brings them just that much closer to winning the cup. This is a version of Connor McDavid that, and I know this because I used to watch him play minor hockey with the Toronto Marbles. Like, I've watched him play locally here since he was 13 years old and through the OHL with the Erie Otters. And yes, I'm becoming that guy, I saw him when guy, and then right up into the NHL. But this is the most focused and determined I've ever seen Connor McDavid. They have a team that could win the Stanley Cup. To me, the main intrigue for me in the Western Conference is, can Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, Mattias Ekholm, Darnell Nurse, and checks notes Stuart Skinner actually win the Stanley Cup? It's a tall order, but if you say the Avalanche have come back to the pack, if you look at, Dallas still has some holes here, and there might be a goaltending issue with the Vegas Golden Knights, maybe they do have a better shot than maybe we thought at the beginning of the season. So to me, I know it's not a good answer for you, Leah, because I'm going with the guy that's going to win the Hart Trophy, but can Connor McDavid do this with the Oilers?
No, that's a great answer.
And you look at these two.
Spice it up with the upper teeth thing.
I know that threw us all for a
loop. A minute. Yeah. But you look at two divisions in the Western Conference that came down to the last week in who's going to win these divisions. Yeah. So if you've got to pick, two questions.
Okay.
Which of these series are you watching the closest? Which is the best in the Western Conference? And can there be an upset with these wild card teams in the first round?
I don't know if you can really. I mean, I guess maybe Seattle you could call an upset just because it's their second season. So that might be the only one. I think the only real upsets this year exist in the Eastern Conference. I really do. Like, if the Florida Panthers can knock off the Boston Bruins, flu bug and all, which is running through the dressing room, I mean, that's an upset. But I don't even, to be honest with you, not that I really think, I don't even know that you can call the Islanders knocking off Carolina an upset. I know that, there's a point swing here, but you look at how the Carolina Hurricanes have played down the stretch. You look at the nature of the injuries and the nature of what's happened to the goaltending in Carolina. And and the return of Matthew Barzal, I don't even know that you can call that an upset. Like, this may be the one season in I don't know how long where I don't know even what would qualify outside of the Florida Panthers knocking off the Boston Bruins, or maybe Seattle winning here in the first round. I don't know that you can really call any of these series an upset. It's like if Minnesota beats Dallas, is that an upset? No. Even if Los Angeles knocks off Edmonton, now, I would consider it an upset, but these teams are more similar. You can make the argument than they are different because, as we all predicted, it's Jonas Korpisalo versus Stuart Skinner, just like we said it was going to be at the beginning of the season, right?
I want to ask you about Colorado. Obviously, It's hard to repeat as a Stanley Cup champ, but this team has had a very different makeup this year versus last, a lot of that due to injury. Do you think the Colorado Avalanche are still Stanley Cup worthy this season?
I do. And I know it's no Landeskog, and I'll just betray my bias. Like, he might be my favorite player in the NHL and has been probably for a lot. I love Landeskog. Oh man, I love me some Gabriel Landeskog. I never want to count out a team that has Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar on it, to say nothing of Devon Taves, who might be the most underrated defenseman in the National Hockey League, and an emerging star in Bo Byram, et cetera, and an emerging Selke Trophy candidate and JT Compher, et cetera. Like Mikko Rantanen had a very quiet, outstanding 50-goal season for this. Like, there's too much talent. They're too well coached. And now they've been through it before as well. I still think that you have to consider the Avalanche as one of the contenders for the Stanley Cup. I don't see how you could posit otherwise. I just want to see him play Vegas. I just want to see, I just want nasty series, Elia. Like, I just want to see, I think Minnesota and Dallas is going to be nasty. I think that's going to be a really nasty series. I think LA Edmonton, where I think everyone from the Edmonton Oilers wants to run Mikey Anderson through the boards. I think that's going to be a really nicely violent series. So, just bring me a violent series here, Leah. That's what I want.
Wow.
How about that?
Jeff Marek's true appetite's coming out on our show.
Exactly. Right? Wow. Well, look at this whole season. We're comfortably sitting in the Western United States, and we talk about an East Coast bias. We talk about the media attention that the Eastern teams get, and the Eastern Conference is no different this entire season about how stacked the East is. The East is going to get the champion of the Stanley Cup this year. It's everything about the East. Is there somebody in this Western Conference that can compete against the teams in the East?
Totally. 100%. 100%. Like, I understand, like, a lot of the talent drain went from the West to the East around trade deadline time, and that story was well told. But last time I checked, to Leah's point, like, the Avalanche are still the defending Stanley Cup champions. I can see Dallas winning the Stanley Cup. I can see Edmonton winning the Stanley Cup. Like, the Oilers have 2 nuclear missiles sitting there on the bench. Like, who's coming close to that in the Eastern Conference? With all due respect, who's coming close to sending Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl over the boards? I think if everything breaks correctly for the Vegas Golden Knights, they could win the Stanley Cup as well. I'm not ready to hand this thing to the Eastern Conference, despite the fact that we saw a lot of talent go from East to West. And even let's consider this point as well. Whoever gets out of the East, unless you have a couple of sweeps, like if I'm the Boston Bruins right now, I'm thinking I got to close this in 4. Because whatever's coming up next is going to be tough. And this might be the only gimme series. Whoever comes out of the Eastern Conference, they're going to be banged up. Like, this is going to be, the motorcycle, jumping a motorcycle out of a helicopter kind of excitement here. And these teams are going to be banged up. These teams are going to be mashed up. I'm not saying it's going to be, easy pickings for whoever comes out of the Western Conference, because they're going to have to go through their own hell as well. But no way. Like, I don't say like, oh yeah, champions coming from the East. Sure, this is a layup, a 2-foot putt. It's great teams in the Western Conference by all means.
All right, Jeff, 2 quick questions. We'll let you go. We know you got to get to another appointment. We can't have you on the show without asking your overall read on the Arizona Coyotes. Just curious from your view, the arena situation, the rebuild, everything that is the Arizona Coyotes, and it is a complex story always. What's your read on everything right now?
First of all, the I don't care part of me, like just the hockey fan that wants to see hockey in unique place. I want to go see a game at Mullet Arena. Like, I do. I don't care about like, oh, how much money they pulling out of the ring. I don't care about that. Like, I want to go see. I want to have that experience. I didn't get a chance to go this season. I'm crossing my fingers that I get to go next season. So the hockey fan in me wants to go watch a game at Mullet Arena. But I mean, Craig, you're well on top of the story. Everything is culminating in the way this roster is constructed everything culminates with, the building of the new rink. And I know there's 2 humongous dates in May. There's a referendum, and then there's May 8th, which is the Arizona Coyotes could have 2 very significant dates on the calendar. I want Arizona to do well. Selfishly, I want Arizona to do well because I want to go see hockey there. And, I always say to myself, as a Canadian, I spent a lot of my youth saying, like, well, I don't know why the rest of the world doesn't love hockey the way we love it as Canadians. And then there's a very unique Canadian thing that's happened where the rest of the world has, also fallen in love with this game and produced hockey players. And we see them coming out of Arizona consistently now as well, and have gotten better at hockey than Canadians in a lot of ways. And you see this every year at the draft, and you see this at World Juniors, you see it at U18, you see it at international tournaments. Like, the rest of the world is right there, and it's almost as if Canadians are offended. Well, I'd say, hang on a second, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, we want hockey to be successful everywhere. How come you people in Arizona don't love hockey the way we are? Well, with the way we do. And then all of a sudden, when they do, all of a sudden say, well, how dare they have the nerve to try to compete with us? There's a certain kind of, Leah's bobbleheading this one. She knows, she's from Toronto. There's a certain type of hockey arrogance in Canada that exists. And anything I can do to sort of help knock that down and help share this great game, I'm all for. I want hockey to be played everywhere, and I want Arizona to be successful. I hope it works. I want it to work. I think it's a wonderful place for hockey to exist. It's a wonderful place to go and watch a hockey game. I can remember my great hockey experience. I guess would have been 2003. I was in Vegas and got a text from Cliff Fletcher, said, hey, we're playing the Calgary Flames in a couple of days. I know you're in Vegas. You want to come down and watch us play the Flames? And boom, that's it. Hop in the car with my girlfriend at the time and through the Hoover Dam, and we're stopped at Sedona and stayed there for far too long because I love Sedona. And we're off to see the Arizona Coyotes at the old jobbing.com arena against Jerome McGinley and the Calgary Flames. It's a great spot to watch hockey. Not necessarily jobbing.com arena. I'm just saying Arizona in general. Yeah. I hope it works. I want it to work. And I do want to go to Mullet Arena next year. Craig, you've been all over the story. There's a whole lot of what ifs that still exist here. But I think, like a lot of sane thinking people, we're crossing our fingers and hoping that things break correctly here for the Coyotes, because they're building it all to pop when this new arena happens.
Last question for you, Jeff, and this is an equal curveball to the Connor McDavid upper teeth question. The Vegas Golden Knights recently chose a new team pet, and it was a goldfish, a Goldie. So if you're picking your team pet, how far down the list would you have to get before you chose a goldfish?
Yeah, that's down there. See, I'm a big dog guy. Like the more dogs in the rink. Like I love those the special events when you bring your dog to the rink. Like I'll take those, and dogs to the ballpark and all that. But yeah, goldfish is right down there with like guinea pigs and hamsters for me. That's nowhere near. But then again, my field of expertise is not evaluating mascots, so I'll defer to the mascot aficionados on this one. But as far as me choosing mascots, I default dog all the time. I'm team dog. Sorry.
Well, Jeff, we know you have to get going. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And hopefully if you do make it out to Mullet next season, we'll have
I can't wait. 100%. I'm going to do the full tour. But I will park some time in Sedona. I've always said if there's anywhere else that I want to live in North America, it's Sedona, Arizona. Like that would be the peace out. Like whatever happened to Marek, I would just be a rumor. Like whatever happened to that guy? The minute you know that you don't know where I've gone, trust me, I'm in Sedona, because that's a beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Thanks for having me on. Much appreciated.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks. All right. Well, thank you again to Jeff Marek for hopping on with us. I know he has a busy day, so it means a lot to us that he had some time to give our show, and lots to unpack from that one. Obviously, we're going to get into our own predictions. But before we do, I was pulling up BetMGM to take a look at what the odds are for the West. Some interesting ones. There's so much, like, the stuff you can bet on BetMGM with the NHL playoffs is crazy. You can bet the number of games, you can bet the winning state or province of the winning team. Like there's just so many really fun things. And now's the perfect time with the playoffs kicking off tonight to check out BetMGM. So make sure you get on there. And if you haven't signed up yet, use the bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for the Arizona audience, you'll get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app, sign up with the bonus code PHNX, place a pregame moneyline wager in the amount of at least $10 on any market at standard odds price. You'll receive $10 in bonus bets instantly, regardless of the outcome of your wager. Just make sure you use bonus code PHNX when you sign up. Plus, join us at the BetMGM Sportsbook at State Farm Stadium for all Suns away games. The first one is this Thursday, April 20th at 6 p.m. It's going to be a lot of fun. Our Suns watch parties presented by Neutral will feature food and drink specials, PHNX giveaways, and BetMGM deposit matches. Join us by grabbing your free ticket in the show notes. And now it's time to listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
All right. Well, thanks again to Shane for the ad read. It's much appreciated on our end here. And for Jeff, when he makes his way to Arizona and wants to take his side trip to Sedona, good thing, like we always say, there's a bajillion Circle K's everywhere on the road. So we'll make sure that Jeff knows about circlek.com/store-locator so he can find Circle K's on his way, stop in for some iced coffee.
Village of Oak Creek. I can make a bunch up there. Yeah.
There's a ton. They always have a ton of great snacks and drinks there as well, on top of their gas. So make sure you're not missing out on all this great stuff. Head to circlek.com/store-locator to find Circle K's near you. All right. Before we get into our own prediction, do you guys have any takeaways from talking to Jeff?
Oh, so much. First of all, how about the incredible take on the Coyotes? I'm guessing we'll be clipping that and showing people that later today.
Yeah, I appreciated a level-headed, rational view of things.
Yeah, and I can't wait for his tour of the mullet too. And he can sit right by Craig with having people stand up in front of him, and Craig can take down the velvet rope and allow Jeff to get into the inner sanctum of the media world that is the mullet.
Yeah, it's not just crushed red velvet robes. It's now robes as well that they give select members of the media. Not when you guys are there, of course. But
yeah, we don't get that treatment. Lee and I and Sean DeBoz do not get
a cigar. Yeah.
Can you see? I can actually visually, I can see Craig in there with a cigar and a robe. But where is my Pellegrino, please? It is not chilled enough. Take it away.
Where's my fork for my sushi?
Exactly.
Oh boy, never gonna
take it away, peasant. Ketchup. Take it away.
Ryan Clark will never be on the show again.
That's hilarious.
Oh man. Yeah, but I thought it was interesting too that his perspective on the Western Conference, and I think there's almost been so much conversation about the East that the West has kind of been not forgotten, but let's not forget that the Stanley Cup champions came out of the West, that Edmonton is in the West. I thought his take on the Oilers was interesting. Just a lot of interesting tidbits.
Yeah, and quickly, Tim, if you want to know why Craig eats sushi with a fork, go back and listen to yesterday's episode on the Eastern Conference previews, and you can get to hear the whole story on why Craig uses a fork. That's it. It is brutal.
Oh, man. All right. Well, should we get into our own predictions then? Is it that time?
I think it's that time.
Okay. Well, we're going to do it. And
Wait, question. Did we get DP's picks? Since
he
not
sent them
today?
to me. Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
He sent me his picks. So let's start with Vegas, Winnipeg. Who wants to go first?
This is the Carolina New York Islander series for me. This is the one and sorry to say this, it's probably Winnipeg's fault because they had the least attention of the season. there's problems with Vegas. Their goaltending has been up and down all year. They've used several goalies to try to get to where they are. They were up, potentially winning the Pacific right until the very last moment. They still have players out on injury. Who's going to play? Who's not going to play? Winnipeg's got problems in the locker room. Who's captain? Who's not captain? If Hellebuck is all world, Winnipeg can win this series. But I am picking the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I kind of think Connor Hellebuck being all world is the only way Winnipeg can win this series. I don't like the way Winnipeg played down the stretch. We were talking about this team as a first place team at one point in the season when we were talking to Rick Bowness. They didn't finish well over the second half of the season. I don't get the feeling that everything's healthy there right now. I think Vegas is going to take this series and take it fairly easily.
Not to beat the same drum as you guys, but I agree. I think Winnipeg barely made it into the playoffs. I think, we looked yesterday at some stats of wildcard teams and underdogs, and about 40% of the underdog wins in the first round. I don't think Winnipeg is going to be that one. I just think there were too many issues this season. I agree that Vegas is going to take this one, and so does Sean, who also has Vegas in the series. So we are unanimous in our picks.
Yeah.
More thoughts?
No, that's good. We already said it.
Okay. All right. Moving on, we got Edmonton, LA, which was one of the ones Jeff highlighted. Someone in the beginning had mentioned that who's going to be the first to be suspended in the playoffs, and why is it someone on LA? We got the rematch, the Edmonton LA rematch. What do you guys got for this one?
I've got the Oilers. I know LA had a good stretch late in the season, although they didn't necessarily complete it. I'm just not on the LA Kings bandwagon. I don't think they're that great a team. I think they're a product of the Pacific Division and the Western Conference as much as anything. And I really like Jeff was talking about, Connor McDavid's on a mission this year, and he's got more help than he's ever had. I think there's more depth on the Oilers than they've ever had. You look at the seasons that Draisaitl and Nuge had as well, over 100 points. Stuart Skinner has solidified the goaltending position, although I don't think he's quite as good as he's been made out to be. If we're talking Calder Trophy voting, I don't think he's the savior that he's been made out to be. I think he's been a bit sheltered, but I think he's definitely solidified that goaltending position. I like the Oilers in this series. I am eyeballing a deep Connor McDavid playoff run.
I look at I always say who's going into the playoffs the hottest. The hottest team in the National Hockey League going into the playoffs is the Edmonton Oilers. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10. Their last regulation loss was nearly a month ago against Toronto. Their last home loss was in February. They haven't lost at home since February in regulation. This is the hottest team by far. Their power play is going to catch a new level in the playoffs. I like LA. I think LA could sneak up on them, but there's two people that are out right now, day-to-day injuries, and they'll probably play, are Fiala and Vilardi. With those two players out, man, this could be quick. And I know they've got that top line with Kempe and Kopitar, but I don't know if they've got enough depth right now to handle what the Edmonton Oilers picked up during the trade deadline. They'd made all of the right moves. They got the defenseman in Ekholm. If Skinner can play average, this should be the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't think it'll be a sweep. I think LA will get some on Edmonton, but I just can't. Seeing what McDavid, what Draisaitl, what Nugent Hopkins did this season, I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I think now that they have the experience of going to the Western Conference Final last season and kind of seeing what it takes, now they have that mental preparation, that mental experience that'll help carry them forward. And if their superstars can stay healthy, which if you remember last season, Draisaitl was not 100% healthy in the playoffs. This season, he is more healthy, at least. I think they're going to be unstoppable. So that's my pick. And it's also Sean's. He also has the Edmonton Oilers.
We're in danger of being unanimous in our picks here.
I know. Someone has to pick an upset eventually. Maybe we'll get there. But before we move on to the last two series, if you're watching on YouTube right now, you see that we're at home. And what happened was there's like a massive Cox outage in California that meant we have no Wi-Fi at the office. So we had to pivot to being home. So besides that, the worst part about this is we were supposed to get a Burrito Express delivery today at the office.
That's right.
And I am devastated that we now are not getting that. I might have to drive to Burrito Express after a show here anyway, just because I had the craving in my head. And the other thing I want to mention about Burrito Express, and this is nobody will really care except for me. Sean finally tried the steak and salsa burrito, which I have been beating the drum for that for months, and I've stood by it, and he finally tried it, and he is now obsessed. And to get Sean to agree with you is like one of the best achievements ever, and he does. So
that burrito's fantastic, by the way. And by the way, this whole notion of how many salsas you get with a burrito, can we talk about this? Can we talk about how Michaela Perkins browbeat the CEO into saying, yes, it's 4, and then I go to a store and I only get 2? I don't know how you guys feel about this, but either way, the burrito you just mentioned is unbelievable, and that salsa, I don't know. I think 2 is the right number.
I think 2 is the right amount.
Some people like to drown it.
Just saying. You don't need to drown out anything because it's so good. So check out Burrito Express for lunch today. You can grab a burrito and follow Burrito Express on Twitter at BurritoEXP today, and also become a diehard while you're at it. Petey and I are rocking our PHNX Coyotes shirts today. There's a ton of stuff in the locker. We launched a new Sun shirt last night. It's unbelievable, by the way. It has a scorpion on fire. It. Yeah, Valley of Death. It's like every shirt just gets better and better and better. We obviously have our new Four Peaks and PHNX Coyotes collab tee, the orange one, which in person, seeing them all together at Four Peaks last week was amazing. These are phenomenal shirts. So you can grab yourself some merch at phnxlocker.com. And if you're a diehard, you get 20% off on all merch and 20% off on all events. And if you haven't signed up to become a diehard yet, you can grab a free shirt or hat when you sign up as well. So if you want to stay up to date with all your Coyotes news and notes right here with PHNX, you'll have the best coverage of the playoffs and the lead up to the NHL draft lottery, the vote, the draft, etc. Craig has weekly diehard only pieces as well. And our Discord, which we're doing a bracket challenge. The link is pinned in our Discord channel. It's for diehards only. So if you want to join that, you got to be a diehard as well. Don't forget to get your picks in because the games start in like 6 hours and then you're locked out. So get your picks in, which I will do right after the show because I'm going to tail all my picks that I gave on the show in the bracket.
And I will too, but can you help me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll call you after. We'll walk you through it.
Appreciate
it. Okay, last 2 series in the West. We got Colorado, Seattle.
You go first, Thea.
Me? No, I don't want to go first.
Okay, well, this one's easy.
Petey was about to start. We'll let him go first.
Go ahead, Petey. You go first.
Well, this one's interesting because if it's a fully healthy team, and I've said that since game 1, if it's a fully healthy team in Colorado, it's not even close. Guess what? Haven't been healthy the entire season. Landeskog's out. Makar is questionable. They've got guys like their secondary scoring. Arturi Lekkonen's been in and out of the lineup. I don't know who's going to play for this team. If there is going to be an upset, it is this one. Seattle has 6 20-goal scores. They have the most balanced scoring in the Western Conference playoffs. There's only one other team that has 6 20-goal scores, and that's Dallas. They defend extremely well. They've got a goaltender that wants to stick it up the rear end of the Colorado Avalanche in Grubauer. I'm still going with Colorado. And I tell you what, I wanted to go the other way. I really, really wanted to go the other way. But Nathan MacKinnon has become otherworldly of late. And they still have a defense with Taves and Girard and Byram that can be effective offensively. This team is still good. They are not the Colorado Avalanche of a year ago. I don't want anybody to say this is a powerhouse team in the West because they are not the same team that they were a year ago. But they do get over on the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, and Mikhail Makar will still be back at some point. They still have, as you mentioned, Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen. They've got a lot of talent on this team. Seattle surprised me to even get into the postseason. They are definitely a better team. They did amazing things in the offseason to get to this point, and it's a great story. But they didn't really sustain. You know, we talk about all the injuries to Colorado and how they've struggled through that all season. They still went 16-3-1 in their final 20 games. They played really good hockey down the stretch. Colorado Avalanche are advancing in this round. It's when they get past this round that things really get interesting for the Avs because Andrei Burakovsky's not here. Nazem Kadri's not here. Gabe Landeskog is going to miss the entire postseason. That's going to hurt them down the stretch.
Yep. I don't think it's going to be, once again, I think Seattle will steal at least once. We saw a lot of the Kraken in the final stretch of the season for the Coyotes. I know this one is so boring compared to yesterday, but I agree that Colorado is going to win this series. However, like you said, we'll see in the next series, in the next round. I don't feel so confident. Like you mentioned, I mean, McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, you can't count those guys out. Can they make another deep run? I'm not sure. But against the Kraken, I think this is a good matchup for Colorado. And I think it was actually on 32 Thoughts with American Elliot Friedman, they had mentioned that someone said in that last game for the division title, Colorado was playing extremely hard because they did not want to face the Minnesota Wild. That would have been a really tough matchup for them. And they played their way into this matchup against the Kraken. And for a team with very little playoff experience, I think when it comes down to it, it's Colorado's to lose. But proud of the Kraken for making it to the playoffs. And Sean also has the Colorado Avalanche. So I think this last series is one that it could go either way. So maybe there'll be some parity here. And we'll move on to it. It is the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah,
Stars I'll start.
Stars 2.0.
I'll start since I haven't started yet, and I feel bad that I haven't. And I know this is going to be extremely boring because I'm picking all the favorites, but I'm going to pick Dallas. I think as far as all the matchups go, this is a very, very close one, kind of like New Jersey, New York-esque. It's also both the green teams, by the way. I think Minnesota's dealing with some major injuries. Eriksson Ek is out. It's just tough. Dallas has been dominant all season long. They were leading the division up until kind of the end there. I think Dallas, I don't know if they're poised to make it all the way to the end, but this is going to be a bloodbath in my opinion. But I'm going to take Dallas just because I think they're built a little bit better for the playoffs. But I honestly will not be shocked if Minnesota takes this.
Stars 1.0 versus Stars 2.0. I have absolutely no faith in the Minnesota Wild. I just don't have any faith with them in the playoffs. I think Dallas is a weird team that could either go out early in the playoffs or go all the way to the Cup final. They have that weird Jekyll and Hyde vibe about them. But I just, like you mentioned, the injuries with Minnesota, I just don't trust this team. I don't know what it is. Obviously, its past performances is part of it, but I do not trust the Minnesota Wild to make any kind of run. I'm taking the Dallas Stars in this series.
Well, I hate to be the spoiler. It's Dallas for me too.
Wow.
The Minnesota Wild, here's one of the problems with Minnesota. They have been injured and they haven't been consistent on this stretch where the Stars have got 8 of their last 9 games are wins. Their goaltender last year in the playoffs, when you look at Jake Ottinger and what he was able to do with a team that was subpar in the West and elevate them to elite in a short amount of time, he was phenomenal in the playoffs. If he is above average here, this team can go all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. I believe that if he is hot, this team's top line can play with anybody. They have speed, they get to the net hard, and a guy like Jamie Benn, who's went out and got 33 goals this season, has a resurgence in his career. This Dallas Stars team is dangerous. It's closest of the 3 series. This is the Rangers Devils that we talked about yesterday in the East, that it could go either way. I agree with that. This is a very well-matched series. You look at, they're going to have like Matt Boldy's going to have a great series in Minnesota. Kirill Kaprizov's going to have to be absolutely elite after only playing 67 games this year. I just think Dallas has too many weapons. I think Miro Heiskanen could be a difference in this series at the back end. His ability to rush up the ice and help out in the offense. I think this team is incredibly quick, and I think they get to the net too well. I like Dallas in this one.
All right. Well, Sean also has Dallas. So
wow.
I think this might be a first ever in which all 4 of us agree on every series, which of course means at least half of them will be wrong.
Yep.
So we'll see. And also we got to cheer for former Coyote Scott Wedgwood with Dallas as well. So lots of former Coyotes. We didn't even mention Nick Bukestad, PD, on Edmonton.
Who?
Your boy.
Just kidding.
He could win.
Where's he from? Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up because I think that's one of the moves that helps Edmonton get over and get farther in the playoffs this year. And I don't mean him specifically. I mean the trade deadline deals with him and Ekholm. They solidified their bottom six. They got guys that can kill penalties now. They got guys that can win major faceoffs, and they got an Ekholm player who can also defend. And that's something they have lacked in the swap with sending Tyson Barrie to Nashville and picking Ekholm up on this team. I can't believe I'm saying this. I really like the Edmonton Oilers right now.
Yeah, me too. Man, Petey, by the way, that was almost a Shane Diefenbach speed read right there. You were talking really fast for a while there.
There you go. Got a lot of good things I got to say. Got to get it all out there.
Yep, love it. Well, there's a lot of exciting stuff going on right now. The NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs, and the NFL draft. It's next week, next Thursday, actually. And the best place to take it all in is at the Four Peaks 8th Street Pub, April 27th, 2 p.m., the official PHNX Cardinals draft party. Johnny and Bo will be broadcasting their draft show live at Four Peaks. Join us for beer specials, giveaways, and a live show. Always the best drink specials: $3 Redberg Lager pints, $5 Redberg Lager pitchers, $5 pitchers, and $3 Kilifter and Wow pints. So you can catch all of us there on April 27th. Register for free in the link in our show notes to take advantage of the beer specials. You must be 21 years or older to drink if you're going to drink, and enjoy responsibly. And with all of these events going on, all of it, all the stuff we're watching right now, the best place to take it all in is on Fubo TV, because they have 140 plus live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. You can stream from any device. You can watch the most Arizona sports for the lowest price. They also have 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. So with the Suns playoff run, with the NFL draft, with the NHL playoffs, it's the best time to watch the Suns and the D-backs on Valley Sports with Fubo TV. You can use the link in the description to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. All right, you guys, anything else before we head out?
I know that the Western Conference playoffs start tonight. I'm afraid that's what someone told the Suns yesterday.
Ooh. That
they started on
Valley of Death, indeed.
Let's go, Suns. Let's pick it up. I can't wait to watch some playoff hockey. This first round of NHL hockey, where it's game after game after game after game, is absolutely unbelievable. I cannot wait for some of these matchups. Who is going to be the team to come out and elevate their game? Which goalie is going to get hot? Which player is going to be the star of the playoffs? I cannot wait, and it all starts here in just a couple hours.
Some great guests coming on PHNX Sports this week as well. We will have Bill Armstrong live in studio on Tuesday at noon, assuming we have internet. On Wednesday, Javier Gutierrez is going to do a town hall where we throw the questions to you, our viewers, and you get to ask Javier, within reason, whatever you want.
Within reason. Underline that.
Yes. And we're also going to catch up with Tucson Roadrunners coach Steve Potvin ahead of the AHL playoffs. So a lot of great stuff coming to PHNX.
Yep, absolutely. So stay tuned. And also, Roaring Fork mentioned this. Just want to give a shout out to the USA women for winning the IIHF World Championship. Congrats to them.
What was the final score, Leah? What was the final score of that game?
I don't know. What was it?
Oh, they doubled them up, didn't they? I think they doubled them up.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. But congrats to them. That's very exciting. But yeah, lots of really, really fun stuff on PHNX Coyotes this week, including daily interviews from Coyotes wrap-up day as well. So just be sure to be subscribed to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss when we go live or when a new video goes up. And you'll want to follow PHNX Sports across all social platforms as well. You can follow us on Twitter at Leah Merrill, at SPetersHockey, at Craig S. Morgan, and I know he's not here, but at Sean_DePaz as well. Let us know on Twitter if you agree or disagree with our playoff picks, and we'll be joining the Discord pool later today. So Discord, let us know there as well. And of course, you can follow the show on Twitter at PHNX_Coyotes. Thank you again to Jeff Marek for joining us. Really appreciate it. And everybody, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Enjoy the first night of NHL playoffs. And we'll see everybody tomorrow at 12. Bye.